What if you could make anyone do what you wanted without them even realizing it? What if influence wasn't about strength or authority, but about strategy and perception? History's greatest leaders, rulers, and tacticians have understood one fundamental truth: control is not about force, it's about manipulation. But how does it work? How can you use psychology, philosophy, and ancient wisdom to master the art of influence? Before we dive in, subscribe now, because knowledge like this is both powerful and dangerous. Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance political strategist, famously wrote The Prince, a guidebook on power, deception, and control. His philosophy wasn't about fairness or morality, it was about results. It is better to be feared than loved, he wrote, recognizing that human nature is driven by self-interest. But Machiavelli wasn't alone. Throughout history, other thinkers, from Sun Tzu to Friedrich Nietzsche, have revealed similar secrets about the hidden mechanics of influence. Let's break them down. Machiavelli understood that power isn't about objective reality, it's about the way people perceive reality. If people believe you are strong, you are strong. If they believe you are weak, even if the truth is the opposite. This is why perception management is at the core of effective leadership and control. A ruler, or anyone seeking influence, must carefully craft an image that aligns with what people expect or want to see, regardless of what happens behind the scenes. Public perception dictates political and social stability more than any objective measure of capability. The first step to controlling people is controlling how they see you. How can this be done? Machiavelli advises rulers to appear virtuous while maintaining the ability to act ruthlessly when necessary. In other words, one should cultivate a public image of fairness, wisdom, and strength, an image that earns trust and loyalty, while being fully prepared to betray, deceive, or even eliminate threats when the situation calls for it. This duality is not hypocrisy, it is survival. In modern terms, this principle translates to mastering public relations, shaping social narratives, and keeping certain truths hidden from the masses. Politics, business, and even personal relationships function in much the same way today. Those who manage perception most effectively often rise to power, while those who believe that pure honesty alone will carry them forward frequently fall behind. Sun Tzu, the legendary Chinese general, famously stated, "All warfare is based on deception." This principle extends far beyond the battlefield, into politics, business, and everyday life. The ability to manipulate perception and mislead others without them realizing it is one of the most powerful tools a person can wield. In essence, deception is about constructing reality, not as it truly is, but as others perceive it. The most successful manipulators don't merely tell lies, they make their lies believable, allowing falsehoods to become accepted as truths. When people believe something to be true, they act accordingly, shaping the world around them based on a fiction they accept as fact. To master this art, there are key strategies one must employ. First, give people a false sense of control, make them believe they are making independent decisions when, in reality, they are walking along a path you have laid out for them. People resist overt control but embrace choices that seem to be their own, even if those choices are carefully orchestrated. Second, always hide your true intentions. Speak in a way that aligns with what your audience wants to hear, even if your actual goals are completely different. People crave reassurance and validation, and by providing this, you gain their trust that allows you to act in your own self-interest while they remain unaware of the larger game being played. Lastly, control information. The human mind is conditioned to believe what it hears most frequently. If you are the one dictating the narrative, whether through media, social influence, or direct communication, you shape reality itself. Those who own the narrative own the truth, even when that truth is built on deception. Machiavelli recognized a fundamental truth about human nature: most people are driven by fear, greed, and the desire for security. These instincts override logic and critical thinking, making people predictable and, therefore, easily manipulated. When you understand what someone fears, what they crave, and what makes them feel safe, you gain the ability to anticipate their actions and subtly guide their decisions without them realizing it. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, expanded upon this idea, asserting that humans are not primarily rational beings but emotional creatures, deeply influenced by subconscious desires and fears. Unlike the Enlightenment view that people are guided by reason, Freud demonstrated that the majority of human behavior is dictated by unconscious impulses. The implications for manipulation are profound. If you can identify and tap into a person's underlying fears or desires, you can steer their behavior while allowing them to believe they are acting of their own free will. For example, political leaders throughout history have used fear of outsiders, of economic collapse, of instability, to justify authoritarian control, knowing that the masses will willingly surrender their freedoms in exchange for the illusion of security. Similarly, advertisers exploit subconscious desires, status, beauty, acceptance, to drive consumer behavior, convincing people to buy things they don't need simply because it satisfies an unconscious longing. Understanding these psychological levers provides immense power over individuals and society at large. Friedrich Nietzsche argued that life is fundamentally a struggle for power, whether we acknowledge it or not. He believed that those who recognize and embrace this struggle rise above the rest, while those who deny it or shrink from it remain weak and powerless. To Nietzsche, power was not merely political or economic, it was a force of nature, a driving principle that determined who would dominate and who would be dominated. Those who understood this reality sought to exert control over themselves and their environment, whereas those who ignored it were doomed to be controlled by others. True power, according to Nietzsche, comes from self-overcoming, the ability to conquer one's own emotions, weaknesses, and impulses. The greatest leaders, thinkers, and strategists in history were not those who passively accepted their nature but those who mastered themselves first. If you cannot control your own emotions, you cannot control your actions. If you cannot control your actions, you cannot control your environment. And if you cannot control your environment, you will always be at the mercy of those who can. This principle applies directly to manipulation and influence. Before you attempt to control others, you must first gain complete control over your own mind. Resisting impulsivity, suppressing emotional reactions, and thinking several steps ahead in every interaction allow you to stay ahead of those who operate on instinct alone. In short, the first step to controlling the world around you is controlling yourself. Julius Caesar and Napoleon Bonaparte mastered the art of divide and conquer, a strategy that has shaped the course of history and remains deeply embedded in modern society. The core principle is simple: keep people divided so they cannot unite against a common enemy. When people are in conflict with one another, they are too distracted to challenge the true power and control. This method has been used in war, politics, and governance for centuries, proving to be one of the most effective tools for maintaining dominance. By fostering internal divisions, rulers and leaders ensure that no single group gains enough strength to overthrow them. When allies turn against one another, the ruling force remains unchallenged, acting as the only stable authority in a chaotic environment. This tactic was used by European colonizers, who intentionally pitted local factions against each other to weaken resistance. In today's world, we see the same pattern in politics, where ideological and cultural divides are amplified to keep citizens from uniting against systemic issues. In ancient China, a political strategist named Shang Yang reshaped an entire kingdom through manipulation. He knew people followed laws only if they feared consequences. So, he created extreme punishments for even minor offenses, making obedience a habit. One day, he placed a wooden pole in the center of the city and promised a great reward to whoever moved it. When someone finally did, he paid them well, proving he kept his promises. The people then trusted him completely, allowing him to implement his brutal but effective reforms. His lesson: manipulation isn't just fear, it's also trust. Give people just enough reward to keep them loyal, and they will accept almost anything you do. Humans like to believe they make rational decisions, but in reality, most choices are driven by emotions. Those who understand how to manipulate emotions can control others without them ever realizing it. Emotional manipulation is one of the most powerful forms of influence, used in relationships, politics, marketing, and leadership. By triggering specific emotional responses, manipulators can guide people toward decisions that serve their own interests. One of the most common tactics is guilt. If someone can be made to feel responsible for another person's suffering, they will go to great lengths to make things right. This is frequently used in personal relationships, where guilt can be weaponized to control behavior. Charities and political campaigns also use guilt to encourage donations or support, framing inaction as a moral failure. Another powerful tool is flattery. People crave validation and will often go out of their way to maintain the positive image someone has given them. Flattery makes individuals feel important, increasing their willingness to comply with requests. This technique is commonly used by leaders, salespeople, and influencers who understand that making someone feel special creates a bond of loyalty. Fear is perhaps the most effective form of emotional manipulation. If people believe they are in danger, whether from an external threat, an economic collapse, or a societal breakdown, they will look for protection. Those in power often exaggerate or fabricate threats to justify their control. Governments use fear to pass restrictive laws, media outlets use it to boost viewership, and businesses use it to sell products. When people are afraid, they prioritize security over freedom, making them easier to control. Lastly, there is hope, the promise of a better future. Hope can inspire people to follow a leader, pursue a goal, or accept difficult circumstances in the belief that things will improve. Hope is a double-edged sword. It can be a source of positive motivation, but it can also be used as a tool of deception. Cult leaders, dictators, and corrupt politicians often use hope to maintain power, offering grand visions that never materialize but keep their followers loyal. When combined, these emotional triggers create a powerful system of control. By strategically using guilt, flattery, fear, and hope, manipulators can guide people's thoughts and actions without them ever realizing they are being controlled. With great power comes great responsibility, or great corruption. History is filled with leaders who used manipulation for evil, from cult leaders to tyrants. The difference between ethical influence and unethical control is intent. Are you guiding people toward a better path, or are you using them for personal gain? Machiavelli warned against being too open about your manipulations. Once people realize they are being controlled, they rebel. The best way to maintain influence is to make others believe they are in control, even when they are not. The world is a battlefield of influence. Whether you use these tactics for leadership, persuasion, or personal growth, understanding them puts you ahead of 99% of people. This is the Beyond the Surface channel. If you found this insight valuable, subscribe now, because knowledge is the ultimate power, and power belongs to those who understand how to use it. Thank you for watching.